On the antitrust outlook, the FTC's Bureau of Competition Director, Ian Connor. Ian, good morning. So the FTC has asked Amazon, Facebook, and others to explain how they use personal data, and that comes this week as there's this dust-up between Facebook and Apple about exactly that. What do you think about the argument that end users ought to have the option to opt in to having their activity tracked across the web?
This is an issue that we're studying, and that is the goal of the report that's just come out for the study that came out at the beginning of this week, is to assess how much tracking there is by these data companies that collect so much on users, and whether further action needs to be taken on either the competition or the consumer protection side.
Well, I mean, regardless of how much tracking there is, and we know that there's a lot with the ad networks, to what degree does a user opt in to that tracking interest the FTC?
So one of the things that we're looking at as we look at a number of different platforms is how basically these services are financed and how they make money. And the key input when a service is free is users' data. And so we're going to look at, and you see this in some of our recent efforts to understand how these companies operate and collect data and then use that data, because we need that information in order to ascertain whether there are quality degradations, whether effectively price increases through the amount of data that's collected by these companies, so that we can assess it both from a competition standpoint, which is what I supervise, and then also from the consumer protection standpoint, which is the other mission of the Federal Trade Commission.
So, Ian, once you have that information, how do you determine whether or not that actually hurts the user? Because I think most people who are on these apps and use these big tech companies don't really have problems with it because they can't see a lot of what's going on in the background.
Yeah, and there are two aspects to this. The first is, was it actually a choice? Did the consumers actually make a choice to give over that data? Was it a knowing acceptance that was going to be used? And then the second thing, which comes in much more on the competition standpoint, is how is that data either a barrier to entry for other companies, or is it used or abused in order to make sure that competitors either can't get access to necessary data or are foreclosed from certain markets because they don't have a similar data set? So we're looking at it from a user standpoint and from a competition standpoint.
And in terms of the impact on the consumer, what do you make of Facebook's argument that taking away ad targeting would mean that companies shift more to subscription models or have more paid add-ons, and that would ultimately disadvantage the consumer, and you'd have people who can't afford to pay things just get fewer services?
We already see a number of different services that have an ad-supported model and a pay-supported model. You can look at a number of the streaming services that have that. So users do, in many cases, already have the choice to pay for a non-ad service. So I think from a competition standpoint, we're in favor of consumer choice. And so giving consumers at least the option to have a non-ad based service would be an attractive choice to many consumers because they're already making that choice in other products.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.